Welcome back to the farm. You will notice a miracle has occurred. It is not raining. It's not sunny, but I'll take rain. I'll take no rain. This is fine. I've got no complaints. And I have the whole day, because it's Memorial Day Monday, that I do not have to work. So I am getting projects done. I've got a lot of things that I got to start on, or I got halfway through on, and I just we never had the weather for me to be able to continue. So I have made a list, because that's what I do. I have got a whole tray of flowers here that need to get interplanted through the veggie garden. I need to finish cleaning up the front flower beds. And I've got a couple of things to go in there. I want to at least mark off where the beds are in the new garden, because it looks like it's drying in stages from the top to the bottom. This end, you can almost see it on camera, it looks much wetter than that end up there. So maybe if I can get those beds dug out and get the corn started, then by the time that's done, this will have dried out enough for me to be able to put the onions and potatoes in. And I gotta clean out the car, because we have company coming this weekend, and I have to drive up to Utica to pick him up, so we need space in the car. I also have to run out this afternoon to pick up a table that's gonna go in my new pottery studio. And if you're interested in seeing the pottery studio or any of my pottery making, let me know in the comments, and I'll try and remember to record something. But today I'm focusing on the garden and the yard. Let me go feed the chickens and check on the rabbits, and then we'll get to work. I'm not just randomly planting flowers through the garden. There is a method to my madness. A lot of flowers have beneficial impacts on the plants around them, and some of them have negative impacts on the plants around them. So that's what I have done here. Is I went through and did research. I knew I wanted to put alyssum and marigolds in my garden, and alyssum, which this is alyssum. It's just a very tiny little flower. It smells very much like honey, and reasonably enough, pollinators love them. They are really good for brassicas, so cabbages, cauliflower, broccoli. And then the marigolds are very good for squashes, melons, cucumbers, things of that sort. But they have a negative impact on brassicas. So I've gone through the garden and I've kind of laid out where I want to put each of those varieties of flowers. I also had a 6-pack of nasturtiums just because I love nasturtiums. So I've kind of put them where I can give them a little bit of support. I don't know, for those of you who were here last year, you might recall that these paths were just covered with flopped over nasturtiums last year. So I want to try and prevent that this year. We'll see if I can keep access to my paths this year. I'm not counting on it, but so that is the plan. I've got everything laid out. Now I just have to stick it in the ground. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. So I got all, ooh, I missed one. 2. I have to go back and put those 2 in. But I got all of those in. I cleaned up that bed a little bit. I need to come back through here with the wagon and probably a bucket. I'm thinking I want to put a bucket at various crossroads in the garden just to pitch rocks into. New York is famous for having very rocky soil, and you've seen me complain about it before when we were trying to dig holes for trees and such. And even just turning the soil, which is well turned, I mean, this is the 2nd year I've been working it, there's just rocks and rocks and rocks everywhere. And I think I just need a place to collect them. So if I had a bucket at the various crossroads in here, then it's a place I could just chuck them and then dump them in the creek to help with erosion, or put them under the sink to make drainage or things like that, rather than just complain about them every time I turn them over and toss them to a different part of the garden. If I just had buckets and put them in there and move them, eventually this will clear out some. You know, this is only year 2. In 5 years, hopefully, the soil is going to be a lot easier to work because I will have put all kinds of organic compost and cover crops and repeated plantings in, and that's just going to, over time, work the soil into something that's much more manageable. But for right now, we work with what we've got. I didn't plant all of the alyssum because I want to put some in the front garden just because I really like it. And so I want to be able to trip over it anytime I'm out doing anything. So these are going to go up front. And I think I'm going to go plant the pine tree garden. Now this bed, you might remember, Josh and I were digging up in the fall. And it's better than it was, but you can see that bishopweed is not giving up. The places where I left the iris, it's all entangled in the roots of that, so it's not going anywhere. And it's coming back up through the mulch here. So I've got to weed all of that. And then I've got all of these plants, which, despite all the rain, are very dry. So I need to water those good and get them planted in. I guess the pine tree gives better shelter from the rain than I thought it did, considering the lake that's built up in front of it. Again, because we've had so much rain, this is kind of the low spot on the property. It runs from up near the end of the driveway all the way down through here along the front of the raspberry beds, and unfortunately that means in front of the Josh and Avery's RV, and then around the side and out towards the big shed. And normally, well, I say normally, when I first moved in, this was dry by Memorial Day weekend. This is not a normal year, so not only is it still wet, it's got algae on it. So, kind of a pain in the butt. That's why I have my waterproof boots on. I don't know if I got that. But, so let's get this weeded and start watering some plants. Perennials. So if everything takes, I won't have to replant or plant anything new in this garden going forward, just as I find stuff. I need to find some more blue and purple stuff to put in that back garden. The pattern is kind of a green and silver, yellow and white, yellow and red, or orange and red, and blues and purples. The cat just jumped up on top of the garbage can and scared the heck out of me. So I only had, surprisingly for me, because I'm invariably picking out blues and purples, I only had 2 or 3 plants to put in there. So I need to look for a couple more for that, and then just see how everything else fills out. So I may need to add some stuff over time, as I see if stuff is too tall or doesn't get wide enough to fill in some of the gaps. And that's the best way to combat the bishop's weed, is to make it so that there isn't any room for it to grow. The bishop's weed grows by rhizomes, which is why it's really hard to get rid of. You literally need to dig up all of the soil, throw it away, and then bring in new soil that's not contaminated. And even then, the rhizomes could be so deep that it's just going to come back. So the only way to really manage it is just to starve it and keep it either mowed or weeded so that the leaves aren't out and collecting energy to keep those roots alive. I need to go in and take a drink, get a drink, and maybe sit for a few minutes, and then we'll come out and work on this front garden. Out of dirt. But I only have one bed left to clean up and get planted. I had enough of those, the bags from filling the big beds, to get everything else filled. I do still have the alyssum and some other plants left that I need to get put in, including some California poppies that I salvaged out of the one bed. I think they'll be really pretty hanging over the front of that far bed there. And then I gotta clean up, and cleaning up's the worst part. I've got all of these piles of sheep's wool that I used as mulch in the fall, and it worked really well, but I'm not sure if I want to put it back on. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. I can just put it in the compost and it'll break down over time. I could use it, ooh, that's what I could do. I could lay it along that embankment up front to try and squash some of that overgrowth, although that stuff will probably just grow on up through it. So I got to figure that out. But let's get the last of these planted and do cleanup. And I think that's it for gardening today. I got a couple of other projects though, so let's see what we get to.